In this episode of the popular series on the 2011 Japanese tsunami, we focus on the more southern areas that were hit hard by the tsunami. The effects and impacts of the devastating wave were vastly different in the south than in more northerly areas. We will explain the reasons why this was the case and look at familiar places that you know from videos that have long been circulating on social media. Friends, welcome to the next video on the Top Topics channel, and here we go! Even looking from 70 kilometers up, there is a noticeable difference in the ruggedness of the coastline between the northern and the southern region. While the northern coastline is very rugged and takes the form of deep fjord bays, the coastline of the more southerly area is flat. Another major difference is that in the north there are virtually no coastal shoals. The deep sea reaches close to the coast, where the bottom then rises rapidly upwards. The shores are further formed by numerous bays surrounded by high mountains. This was determined the behavior of the tsunami in this area. The wave didn't appear as a classic wall of water at the shore, but as a sudden flood that quickly raised the sea level by up to 40 meters. The sudden backwash of water into the ocean depth was also destructive, taking a more aggressive form than a gradual surge. This behavior was also evident in the town of Onagawa, which lies on the very southern border of a rugged coastline that turns abruptly into flatlands further south. As you can see, the town of Onagawa is nestled in a deep, funnel-shaped bay surrounded by high hills. The city itself was not directly exposed to the epicenter of the earthquake and is sheltered by this mountain. However, the epicenter is only a few tens of kilometers away, so that the energy of the tsunami when it reached the shores was enormous, as we know, for example, from what happened in Kasanuma. The location of the city in a deep bay is rather a disadvantage, because the water will be drawn into a narrow space which greatly amplifies the effects of the wave. In the town itself, a witness managed to record a unique video showing the behavior of tsunamis in deep bays. The video shows the water rising steadily, but not aggressively, up to 65 feet, the level of the top floors of buildings. Then the tide stops and water remains remarkably calm. And then the destruction of the city comes in the form of a sudden rush of water back into the ocean. Here, on this building, you can see the limit of the moisture, how far the rising water reached before it began to recede. The consequences for the city were catastrophic, with the destruction of even strong concrete buildings and the washing away of most structures. The only place that remained protected was this high mound on which the local hospital is located. This gave Japanese engineers guidance on how to proceed with the reconstruction of the affected areas, and similar protective solutions are being built in many places. As you can see, here in the north, the wave has reached up to these places, which means that if the wave had a few meters higher reach, it would have spilled over the highest point of the mountain and flooded the residential areas that extend all the way to Mangakur Bay. Fortunately, this didn't happen, and the neighborhood was therefore unaffected because, as you can see, Mangakur Bay itself is very well protected, and the tsunami had minimal effects there, as can be seen in the buildings, which, even in the immediate vicinity of the sea, remained almost untouched. To the east, the town was damaged approximately 1.5 miles from the harbor, which is clearly visible from an aerial view. The original buildings in this area were completely destroyed and washed away, and also here the Japanese applied an interesting solution. The original buildings here were quickly replaced by these container houses, which can be built in a very short time. Other parts of this area are still deserted, and in places there is ongoing reconstruction. As you can see here, even the shops here are housed in containers, which may seem inconvenient, but it is an effective solution, and it seems that this type of construction will continue to gain ground, because in the event of another wave of destruction, everything can be rebuilt relatively quickly. Returning to the harbor itself, the most remarkable fact is that there has not yet been any construction of a protective breakwater. There are reasons for this. Such a wall would have to be at least 100 feet high to have the necessary effect. But the locals couldn't imagine such a concrete monster and rejected this solution. Instead, other interesting solutions are being pursued. The whole area, away from the harbor, is being massively raised, and only on these raised platforms will buildings be constructed. The next wave will therefore bypass the new buildings. In the immediate vicinity of the sea, only industrial and warehouse buildings, which can be easily rebuilt, will be placed. There will be no residential buildings here in the future, thus minimizing the possible loss of life. Onagawa, in short, has chosen an interesting path after its tragic experience. Another interesting testimony of the effects of the tsunami in the area comes from the fishing town of Agatsusho, which lies on the right bank of the beginning of the deeper Ogatsu Bay. Also here, the video shows the sudden impact of the tsunami in the form of an unexpected rise in sea level. The fate of the local communities and small harbors was similar to that of Onagawa. Very few buildings remain in place, and even the town of Kamiogatsu, at the very end of the bay, didn't survive the tsunami. Even the strong concrete buildings were significantly damaged, as seen in this landmark building that was demolished years ago. As you can see, unlike Onagawa, here they decided to build a massive concrete breakwater to stop a wave like the one in 2011. A massive steel gate will be built here at this point, so the city should be completely safe, which is further secured by raising the ground above ocean level. The tsunami destroyed most of the other towns and communities on the islands and peninsulas further south of Onagawa, which definitively end the rock coastline of the northerly area. From this point, the geomorphology and bathymetry of the coastline changes completely. We'll discuss what effects this had on wave behavior in the next video. And we'll also tell you the story of the city of Ishinomaki, which was one of the largest cities affected by the wave and which is at the very beginning of the southern coastal plains. Friends, that's it for this video. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe, give it a like and a bell, and we'll see you at the next video.